G'day, people. Here we are, Filmmaker Fridays. So, pretty excited. Number 4, Davo Hardy from Davo Hardy Productions in Brisbane. He's an all-rounder. He's a writer, director, I guess, by heart and by core skill set, I guess you might say. But he's also mucked in on a variety of different productions and is willing to collaborate with other people. And I guess it just has a passion and a love for the art form and arts in general. He's got some interesting bits and pieces in his backstory that I won't ruin now. I'll wait to actually get a chance to talk to him, and then we can go through it then. So, all right, let's get him in here. G'day, mate. How you going?
Brad. Very well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, and apologies for the slight delay here, getting things organised. It's just fun and games doing everything myself, essentially, trying to do the artwork, the social media posting. Facebook went and changed a bunch of settings. They've got some new studio, so they're probably trying to ramp up. It looks like everybody's basically trying to do the same thing. Yeah, they want to be the kind of core streaming destination and location, and try and lock down the viewers to there. Anyway, so mate, look, for people who don't know who you are, perhaps we can start just by giving us a little bit of a rundown on who you are and what you're doing currently.
Alrighty. First up, I would probably say that I'm a filmmaker. I have so many different things that I've done and am known for, but that comes into my philosophy that one should never have their feet planted in one place for too long and get complacent. It's just forever being curious and exploring bits and pieces that keep the creativity going and keep the curiosity and the mind ticking over and the questions coming. That leads into bigger stories and broader things to produce. But end of the day, I'm a writer, director of film, and a storyteller overall. So my outlet for that might come and go, but that's essentially what I'm always doing.
Yeah, awesome. So, having been someone who was trying to get into video production, filmmaking, and the like last year, I kind of was like, I don't know, must be having midlife crisis or something. I was just like, that's it. I'm quitting my corporate career and I want to go do something creative. I used to do a lot of creative stuff when I was younger. So I never, I had 20 odd years of not really doing anything terribly artistic. So as soon as I started learning a little bit about editing and the art form of movie making and things like that, it's just been a non-stop journey of learning from there. And I love what you said there in terms of the curiosity, because I think that it drives you, and it's exciting. I think creativity is such a powerful thing that I think probably vastly underrated as a core component of being a human and being happy. So, I mean, as I was saying, I know it's a hard road to tread to try and sort of pave your way, and you're much further down the path than I got to. I DP'd on a short film last year that we just produced up here with the Sunshine Coast Screen Collective called Showdown, which hasn't aired. I think they were trying to maybe get into the festival circuit, but of course then COVID came, so it's as yet unreleased. But that was as close as I've gotten. So let's talk about, I guess, your backstory and and I mean how you've kind of gotten to where you are today. Like, I like to wind the clock, right back. Did you grow up in Queensland, or what's your?
I'm actually from the south coast of New South Wales, just beyond Sydney.
Okay.
And I've travelled around a lot. What with getting my films out there. Actually, last year was the first time I actually got to take my film to different states to show it to Q&A audiences, which was just another new step along the way of the journey. So
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. So whereabouts on that south coast? Because my grandparents used to live down at Geroa, which is down sort of south of Kiama. So I know that little stretch reasonably well.
I would say I'm officially a gong boy from Wollongong.
Oh yeah,
It's it was different back then to how it is now. It was I would say it was still kind of in its steelworks coal town mindset then. It's now much more of a
yeah,
university town. So its own
yeah,
personality has changed in the 25 years since I was growing up there.
yeah. So when did you make the move up here?
As soon as I finished high school at age 18, I there's a, a few things that happened then, but broadly speaking, I got a scholarship to film school in Sydney. So I I loved the 2 hour commute, but I didn't want to have it every day. So I had to go with the calling. And one thing I love about Wollongong and the surrounding suburbs is that it's inside of a escarpment of mountains. So you
Yes,
physically have to kind of climb over it to get out, and this whole world opened up, which I had seen, in passing on day trips and so on. But to then
yeah,
suddenly wind up in the big city, I had that real cliche moment of, you know, craning my neck up to see the tall buildings and like this is actually where I live now. What a culture
yeah.
shock.
Yes. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I mean, I grew up in country New South Wales, and yeah, starting from really teeny, like three, four house towns through
Yeah,
to, Bellingham was probably only about 3,000 people or something. And even though I had relatives in Sydney, and a bit like yourself, I'd sort of been through when you move there, it's so different. You go from pretty much knowing half the people around the place and saying hello or just at least saying hello in passing by to nobody kind of will literally give you the time of day. If you try and approach somebody, people kind of scurry away from you.
people are very guarded. Yes, which is something which I understand and I feel that around people, but I'm also when I ask people just to tell me what they perceive of me, they tend to say confident. And first one to start a gathering of people, I didn't know that was a skill that I had or a trait that I have, but
Mm,
the the evidence itself. So those of us who do approach a stranger wanting to engage, it isn't always about asking for a dollar or something illicit. It's just wanting to connect.
exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, just be a human being, like just say hello to someone, say hello to someone at the bar and what have you. Yeah, no, it's funny like you're saying because I have recognized over the years that I think particularly in my 20s where we were doing a lot of socializing, I didn't have kids and what have you. I definitely was someone who kind of corralled people together, like I could seem to have a bit of a knack for saying, hey, let's all do this and da, 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 and just round people up,
Yeah,
which I think would probably be quite helpful when it comes to being a director. It's I guess, part of the function, really, isn't it?
very much so. I suppose I have a rather trustworthy face, which is helpful. And once I'm in the groove of directing, um, I don't discriminate with who I can approach for getting stuff done. It's often just those first few steps of getting motivated. But once I'm in that zone, I do find it very easy to communicate with people and to uh, get the team moving. And as you were saying
Mm,
when we first started this feed, when you're wanting to be the maker of something and get a production done, it's very difficult to be both the captain and the engineer and be at two places on on the set because delegating has been the hardest thing for me over the years. I have a certain vision, and to keep that vision, it needs to have certain things in place. But then you hand it
mm,
over to a DP, hand it over to the actors, hand it over to the set designers, and so on, and they all have your vision there as something to build upon, but they bring their own flavor to it, and
mm.
that is always having to manage the broader thing. So that's what makes the career so much fun, Brad.
Yeah, yeah. So film school, what sort of year was that you were there?
2008 to 2009.
Yeah, that was the International Film School of Sydney, wasn't it?
Yes, which has now been bought up and rebranded as the Australian Film and Television Theatre. Oh, good lord. AFTT is what it's called.
Oh, afters. It's that. Yeah, after. Right. Okay.
Not not
No,
not afters. No,
not
not
afters.
afters.
No,
There's
no.
another one, and they'll be proud that I'm telling them apart from afters. Afters is its own entity.
Yeah.
AFTT is this other one, which is half acting school, half film school, and they were
Okay.
two entities which combined about within the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, yeah. So, what was it that drew you to film to begin with, and how did you get the scholarship?
Oh wow. I was always a film appreciator. When I was quite small, I would have my core group of friends in the classroom, and of a recess time, we would reenact our favorite scenes from stuff, and just in hindsight, we were almost play acting to ourselves. But I'd always really enjoyed that creativity and that collaboration. So
Yeah.
I could never articulate that I wanted to be a filmmaker. People would see this writing streak I had, and I was quite young when I was reading novels and writing a lot. But as a filmmaker, I picked up a camera for the first time when I was about 7, 8 years old, and this was at the height of the Titanic boom. So I had this idea in my head of what a film was, where it was bombastic, spectacular, and thing always had to sink in the ocean. So my first underwater shot with this camera and completely stuffed it. And my parents said, "You will never have a camera again as long as we're alive." So it took me a few years to get that
Turned around.
forgiveness from them. But well, it was a apology and a lot of like understanding that this is quite precious equipment, and I don't know. I think they just saw that it wasn't a passing phase. I, as a curious child, has a lot of passing phases. This is the one which I had, which
Mm.
didn't ever quite go away. So there was a garage sale up the road when I was about 12 years old, and they were getting rid of this dreadful little camera there. It was running only off AC. It went right into the VCR, and it only showed up in black and white. And I thought, well, this is my punishment. So I used it on the end of a 300-meter long extension cord to take it away from the living room, and that's when I first discovered VCR to VCR editing, and that kind of puts the era in people's minds when this
Yes,
was.
yes, it goes back a while.
And so then when I reached high school, it was English. So I did high level English, advanced extension 1 and 2. So to make anything close to a film in high school, either you go the drama route, which is mostly theory I'd heard, or you go the English route, which is you read a lot of novels, you watch a lot of films, and then when you reach the HSC, you can actually make your own. So that was a bit of like pre-planning from as far back as like year 6 to year 7 period. But when I finally reached that point, I had this idea in mind, and I just took this 7-minute short I'd made at age 17, 18 to the film school saying I would like to apply for next year. And they saw my economic background, they saw my experience, and just said, "We're thinking about running a scholarship. Are you interested in that?" And I thought, I suppose so. And the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. It's really cool. And yeah, VHS. Yeah, it's a funny thing. I think I know that like now there are actually people who get passionately into VHS collecting, and
Yeah.
what I've heard from I don't know if you listen to the indie film Hustle at all with Alex Ferrari, or he's got a few different. He's got the Bulletproof Writing or something like that, and he was talking about just different ways of making money in film nowadays, and how it's quite different to, I guess, the old days where you could potentially get it broadcast and make all your money back there. But in the horror scene, apparently, they, for whatever reason, really like niche horror movies on VHS. So,
Right.
that's yeah, I think it's one of the good things about the size of the world like now is that there's so many people, and because of social media, if you kind of put yourself out there that you're interested in particular kind of things, you can sort of end up, I think the ability to have sort of like happenstance or serendipity can sort of flow a little bit more smoothly, and you can just end up finding your own tribe, I guess. Yeah. So all
Very much
right,
so.
so you go to film school, and you did English, so I was interested in when the acting part came in, because it looks as though you've done a little bit of acting in your life so far.
Yes. I was a middle child, and I was a very imaginative child. So I always had the need to be seen, be heard, and to stand out from the crowd. The first time I remember acting would have been in kindergarten, funnily enough. I think they could tell that even at that age of the class, I was one of the more prepared to get up onto the stage and not flub the whole thing. But it was a very 5-year-old recreation of a Disney classic, and we were quite silent, apart from a line or two here, but it was all choreographed, and they could tell during the rehearsals of it that I didn't forget the choreography to it. So when it came to actually making my own shorts in high school and so on, I just needed to connect with people who had the same ability to step out of themselves and into a character, and that's
Mm,
what's always attracted me to actors now, is that they can drop their own ego and become what's in place.
mm,
Uh, I don't know if I take my own acting as a priority because I don't project that as my main focus, but I can do it
mm,
and I do it.
mm,
Even with the stuff I'm making now, I put myself into those parts, mostly because as an actor, those parts aren't coming to me. I don't think I've come across many other writers or filmmakers who are exploring the same things that I am and wanting to take as
mm,
many risks as I do. So it isn't that I think I am the best actor around. I think I'm actually quite limited in many ways. But I I think if I was to sit back on my laurels waiting for people to come to me with their work, I'll be waiting a long time. And it's just a way for me to not go stale in the waiting. So
mm.
that's why I do it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I assume you've acted in a variety of parts, so ranging from the lead to to some others.
Supporting.
I'm just going to bring up. I'm just going to bring up the share screen here with
Yep.
some examples that you shared with me. Uh, Sorry, just bear with me. And this one
You know it's
intrigued
live.
me because
Yep.
yes, this one intrigued me because of the hand signals. But anyway, we'll get to that in just a minute.
Okay.
Can we please, for a minute, stop blaming and say what you feel? Is it just that you're disappointed to be going into Ohio? Did you think this would all be much easier than it's turned out to be? Well, then talk to me, Cat. Talk to me. So, tell me about did the audio come through just now, by the way? Because I went full
I
screen
got the
on the.
audio. The video looks a little buffering, but
Was it?
I get the gist of what you're describing to the audience. Um,
Yeah.
there's a video there. if I didn't believe in you from the last 5 years, which I performed in Auslan in sign language, and
Yes.
that is, funny enough, part of what I made in HSC was this short film about sign. Um, I had grown up with a stutter, and it was quite debilitating to the point where I thought I'm just not going to speak at all.
Wow.
And when I approached the film school to be a student there, and I got the scholarship and all the rest, as we were going through the course, one of the teachers, professors, I don't know what they were there, but one of the lecturers told me verbatim, you probably shouldn't aim to be a director because you stutter, and people won't have the patience for that. Might want to choose a
Mm,
different career. And I was
mm,
devastated. I thought,
mm,
"Ugh." So once the initial shock wore off, there came that innate, well, I'll show you part of my personality, that very stubborn, if you tell me no, I'll prove it's a yes kind of thing. So I wrote this little piece, which has now become a silent agreement. This film I made, where a protagonist has a stammer and meets a deaf person and thinks, "Oh, cool! This is a deaf person, someone who I can never speak with, and I can just learn their language and just get around my issue that way." But as was what happened with me, the deaf person told me, "You have the skill, you have the ability, and I will teach you to sign. But if you dare use it as your main communication skill, no." So that was a
mm,
fair trade. I learned the language, and we had a great relationship for about 5 6 years, and then he passed away suddenly. And I thought, well,
mm,
I've had this uh, journey with him. I want to now bring it to film as a tribute to that, and to showing
homage.
to my own healing and growing from that. So I still sign, and I was doing it a lot with music and to songs, because that's a good way to get time, pacing, and expression.
Mm.
And when I made A Silent Agreement, it was really taking that story to a cinematic level, and a lot of catharsis came from that.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. That's amazing. I mean, it's quite a bit of a heavy story, really, in some areas. But clearly, clearly you've overcome the stuttering, and I didn't pick that at all. I thought that you were gonna have maybe a deaf sibling, like a brother or a sister or something like that, where you'd learnt to sign. So that's pretty amazing. I mean, how did you, like, from that point, having somebody say, "Hey, this is probably not the pathway for you." What were the, but you decided, well, look, stuff here, and I've got that. I think I've got maybe almost a dash too much of that in myself. But so, how did you progress? Like, how did you, I guess, improve your speech to the level that you're at now?
Right. Um, I would say a lot of my articulation was there. I had the vocabulary for it. I shouldn't have the motor skills of the breath, the enunciation, the way of expressing how I wanted to in a way which was going to be understood. I know that I speak quickly, and I always have, but to people who like aren't Australian, people who are foreign and hear me, they have a bit of issue now and then, just because of my accent, whatever it is, and
Yeah, yeah.
at my pace of speaking. So I find being quite gestural has helped with that, and it's been a lot of it's just been practice. So um, broadly, hearing that my speech was going to be an issue, and it was going to steer me away from the career which I was really leaning into, having that innate ability to just sort of know, sort of in my gut, that this person is wrong, and to hear an authority figure, someone who is by design meant to encourage and support you, the student, uh,
Mm,
and see that as maybe they're not right, was
mm,
a bit of a mind flip for me. But I think nobody has ever liked to be told what to think. No one has ever
Mm,
taken on board advice when its intention is to discourage somebody or to take away the merit of what they're trying to do. I think people respond a lot more
mm,
to the curiosity or
yeah.
to the if the person had asked me, the lecturer had asked me, so with your speech, how do you envisage your career going? That would have been a completely different way of showing me the same obstacle I had,
Mm,
but
mm,
allowing me to have more onus of it and to
mm,
hopefully produce a response to it, which would make them have a moment of pause. So
mm,
that's all come with getting older and experiencing more of life. But at that age, I was very impressionable and very sensitive. And I
mm.
think if I hadn't have had that response when I did, it would have changed the whole course of my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's really full on, isn't it? Well, that's amazing. I mean, I'm just excited that you've overcome that obstacle, let alone, I guess, what you've been able to then do in terms of film and yeah, and I guess suffering, significant loss and stuff like that. These are, I guess, some of the war wounds, I guess, that we have as you grow. Like I think when I was young, I just kind of thought I didn't think that life was stressful. I didn't think life was going to be stressful. I didn't understand why my dad was always so sort of worked up. I was just like, just calm down. Like it's really, like what's the drama? But yeah, I mean, I tell you what, like, yeah, I've had a few things happen in life, and I think most people have, right? By the time you're sort of, I mean, I'm 41 now, so by the time you're kind of getting into that middle range, which I never want to call myself middle age, but I had to sort of accept it. Well, like in my late 30s, I was just, no, I'm not middle aged, but then I'm 40, I was like, well, that used to be over the hill, so I guess I'll probably take that on the chin. So nonetheless, all right. So so you're in film school.
Yep.
What's the first film that you made?
Oh, like a lot of people fresh out of film school, I had this uh, safety net of equipment and people and knowledge. So as soon as the course ended, I came out very cocksure of myself, and then had to face all these brick walls again. So the first films that I made didn't get finished, which is something which I've now addressed and I'm working on now. The first one I released and said this is my first film was The Lives We Lead, which was, you just sang about middle age there. I had what I would call a quarter life crisis. So I had, oh God, I was 24, 25 years old, and suddenly everyone who I had known from my adolescence and my young adulthood was getting married, having kids, buying houses, becoming managers of their job, and having this one after another life milestone celebration. And there I was not. So I looked around and I had this thing that people do to themselves, which is awful. I compared my own success to that of those around me, and that's
Mm,
something which I suggest that no one should do because
man.
it's very very soul crushing.
Mm,
But as with that moment at film school, it motivated me to make something of this self-inflicted trauma. So I created these characters who were all very different archetypes of young adults. There's the ambitious one, the quiet one, the one who just wants things to be placid, and the hard worker. So going through their lives from like ages 8 to 58, that's a nice little arc there. They almost end up leading each other's lives in that they're often motivated by spite, by wanting to get a leg up over the others, and they're not necessarily being driven by their own happiness per se. And I found that to
mm.
be a really interesting way of telling how not to live one's life. So
Yeah,
when
yeah.
when I titled it "The Lives We Lead," it wasn't necessarily saying that it was their own lives they were leading. So
Right,
that was
yes.
the idea behind that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, man, I wholeheartedly agree when it comes to comparison. You know, it's just one of the life's tragedies, and it's probably more prominent, I think, you know, in our time because you've just got stuff thrust in your face all the time. You know, it went from sort of billboards and magazines, but, you know, like those people were, you know, they're the stars, they're the celebrities, they're very far removed from, you know, the rest of us mere mortals, you know, like, but now it's kind of like, oh, my friend is, you know, like at the resort sipping on margaritas or something, you know, and I'm here in some job I hate, you know. But yeah, I just don't see any positive. Like in comparing, like, you know, if you compare up like to others, then it just makes you feel shit. If you compare to others and you're the type of person where you're then thinking you're better than those people, then that's also not a good result. So it's good that you've, I guess, been aware of that at an early age. You know, shows you know, that kind of level of depth. So what was the next project after that?
Oh, after I made The Lies We Lead, I had a lot of success with it. It got distribution straight away. It got me noticed right away, and I had this sense of this isn't going to be long term, so I need to work on the next one right away. But I got the influence to make what has now become A Silent Agreement. But I thought I'm not quite ready to make that one yet. It's still quite raw to me, still quite precious, and I wasn't at the level where I could get it made financially. So I thought I'll have this one little practice one in the middle there, and I made a film called Hunting for Shadows, which was, it stands as my biggest mistake in that it wasn't my genre, it wasn't my style of storytelling. It was the amalgamation of everyone around me who didn't have my best interest at heart and my best way of creating at heart, just to be as normal and as mainstream and as much like everyone else as I could be. So it was a horror thriller based on mythology, which I picked up in bits and pieces from a holiday up in the Warrumbungles National Park, and I finished it and looked at it and thought I despise this piece, but I keep it there, and I still lean into it every now and then to say that I haven't disowned it entirely, but I keep it there as a reminder to myself, if ever I step away from what I truly want to do and what I'm trying to say, this is going to be the response. It's going to be something which, like, sure, it might get finished, and one out there might actually like it, but it is no indication of my abilities as a storyteller. It looks like it was shot on nothing, and it was. And the people involved in it, I think from start to finish, just everyone involved was in it for themselves, and that really shows in the finished product. I did this whole piece afterwards, saying that I could really tell when this film came about who was there and for what reasons, and who actually stayed back with me once we finished shooting to pick me back up off the ground and to put me back together again, because it was devastating to make, having just a whole cast and crew of people who didn't like me, I didn't like them back, and it was a disaster. So that's quite a lesson, which I could have just said, you know what, close it all down. It never happened. This will never see the light of day. But that's going against what I'm trying to create as a filmmaker. Is the reality and the authenticity of we all stuff up, and we are often led down the wrong path by people, and we have a lot of advice given to us, a lot of people wanting to collaborate on that which it might be another, but it's not something which we want to attach ourselves to, and all the rest. So that is just there as a reminder to myself to stay true and stay authentic, and now and then say no.
Yeah, so interesting. So, I mean, how did you come to connect with these different people, I guess, you know, and in hindsight, I guess, what did you do wrong that I guess meant that you kind of ended up in that scenario working with a variety of people that kind of didn't really like each other or were too self-focused and what have you? Yeah, and how could you possibly avoid it, or could other people maybe learn from your journey?
At the time, I had the inkling that a lot of it is based on the individual and what they're wanting to have, which is generally speaking prestige and money. That's what most in the industry are driven by, and I can't say that I don't have any of that in me, but I don't have it now, and it's not killing me, so it is what it is. But for Hunting the Shadows, I had these two individuals of chalk and cheese, black and white. I had Paul Mercurio, the actor, who was who I got a hold of just by chance. I was doing an interview with somebody talking to filmmakers and actors around. I mentioned him on my list of people I want to work with, and in the interview lent in like how much I want to work with him, sort of thing. So they connected us together, and Paul was really altruistic. He's like, "I'll be there for you. I am your tool for this endeavor, and whatever you need of me, I will produce." Then I had more crew-based people who were there for the credit and for the money I was offering, because I'd made a little bit off of Lives We Lead, and I wanted to put the funds from one film into the next and make it snowball. So those who were in it for just the money took it and ran, did minimal effort, and made it so they would have to get more by dragging out the production time and so on and so forth.
Mm.
When I made my fourth feature film last year in 2019, Blood of God, I did a little test to myself. I told everybody involved it was going to be shot in rural New South Wales, and it was going to be unpaid, and it was going to be a labor of love as far as the film goes. But it wasn't. It was shot in Sydney, and they were paid, and it was everything that I said it wasn't. But those who got involved were in it for the reasons of, I want to help this guy out. I believe in this project, and
Mm.
they were happy to ostensibly go through a hard time and not be put up in a resort or whatever for production. And then they got
Mm.
surprised with, oh, this actually isn't going to be as hard as it's made it out to sound. And when we finished the production, we were all so familiar with each other, so familiar with each other that I proposed to my partner at the wrap party, because better
Uh,
than a family, it was just my tribe was around me. So
yeah.
that was a really
Wow.
gratifying thing to happen.
Yeah, that's amazing. So good. Congratulations on that. That's pretty exciting. I mean, and a nice kind of like a redemption story versus the other
Yes.
versus the other project. Now, and this is one of the things because I kind of feel, you know, kind of even in my venture now, what I'm trying to achieve with Flicks for Good, I believe to do it, I'm going to need to get some people to either volunteer, or hopefully a number of people volunteer and help me on the journey, or some people to work, quite cheaply, and maybe some, that where it's kind of like a, I can't remember the proper term right now, but essentially, it's quid pro quo sort of thing where you're going, okay, well, you do the work now, and then once we raise the money, then we'll pay you there, and they take on board that risk. But I kind of feel a little awkward with how to approach people. So I'm interested to know how the conversations evolved, how you found those people, and I guess it transpired in a way where nobody felt like they were being taken advantage of per se.
I think the person that you're after is deferred payment.
Mm.
In the industry, deferred payment is a very nice way of saying you aren't getting paid, but I'll make you think you are. I I personally never put that in front of my people. I never promise deferred payment, because that might end up be how it goes. Something might go awry, and I'll say like I'll pay you later, it's in the mail. But I don't ever want to associate myself with the wool over the eyes that deferred payment is.
Mm.
if someone's going to get paid for their work, I like to say up front, and if they're not getting paid, more importantly, I say up front. I don't
Mm, mm,
see the merit in confusing or misrepresenting what's being done here. And I think as a performer and a writer and all the other things that I am myself, I'm not adverse to creating for something other than financial gain. I've done theatre work, which I've never seen a dollar for, but it's been a very fulfilling experience because I was given complete freedom to do what I wanted and what I needed in that time. When I approach people, um, I always give them the out. Is I never said to somebody, "You have to do this for me, or else," and it's never, "This is unpaid. If you do it, then it's your own choice." It's a, if you're doing this unpaid, I can't assert over you the boss. I can't tell you what to do because you're there of your own good graces. But someone told me a few years ago that some people just are happy to give back something every now and then. So there's a certain joy that comes from, you can tell when this is meaning something to somebody else, and you can give that away, and the goodness of that. And I thought, I felt that, never articulated it, but I felt the goodness of being there for somebody else getting their stuff made without expecting anything in return. And once you can do that, not all the time, mind you, but if you find yourself
mm,
in a position to be able to give back something without a reward or a payment in return, you get something in return which is much bigger.
mm,
So I guess in a word, what I find on approaching people is just be genuine and be honest. Be
mm.
prepared for them to say no, and don't bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I like that. It's, I guess, and that's probably why I kind of grapple with the whole thing of like not paying people. But I do get the whole excitement and merit and learning and everything like that. Doing the stuff that I did last year with the Sunshine Coast Screen Collective, everybody went into that, including we had Bill Hughes with us because he's moved to the area and he came on board not to be the honcho, be just to share some of his wisdom. And I think he ended up being in the role of assistant director, and it was fun. It was a fun thing to do. You felt like you were kind of learning something, and that's the thing, isn't it? I think filmmaking, it's very much kind of like a leveling up kind of process, and chicken and the egg. And like if you want to kind of get this level of experience or this kind of credit, even you've got to sometimes do something for free or what have you. So as far as because I didn't end up getting to your IMDb, which was a bit of a bummer, but it's I stalked you on LinkedIn and I've got some other bits and pieces. But how many films have you written and directed, and then how many have you played different roles in?
I've produced 4 feature films. I'm currently in pre-production of my 5th now, and several others just beyond it, which are written but not yet in production period. Of
Mm-hmm.
shorts, I think I've probably made over a dozen short films. Maybe half of those are on IMDb because they've actually gone to festivals and been released in some manner. And of my feature films, I've appeared in 2 of them. That's Lies We Lead and A Silent Agreement. And I'll be in the next one, my 5th one. So it's almost like one on, one off in a way. Um, but that's all often been because the role which I've taken on is something which I wanted to experience. And it's in The Lies We Lead, it was a lead role, but it was the least interesting of all 4 of the main leads. It was, I think if you actually time how long each of the 4 of us are actually on screen, I was on screen much less than the other 3 because it wasn't necessarily his story. It was more about the 2 sisters, and we were their offsider mates or their male companions. But for a silent agreement, it was very much my story. It was a stammerer, writer, filmmaker who meets a deaf guy and so on and so forth. So I thought, well, who else could I possibly get to play this role better than myself? I've never seen a stammer on film that I believed. And often a stammer is in its very minute little ticks. So I thought, if I'm just performing as Davo, surely that will just come through naturally, and it did. And that in itself was very liberating. I was able to, as an actor, not ask for a second take or worry that I was stammering in my lines, because that was the very point of the role. So that's why I took that one on, not for my
Yeah.
own glory, because it was just something which I thought I won't get the chance ever again to stammer openly in a film role. So
Yeah, 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 100%. Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty bold, pretty bold move. Well, it's great to hear that you've got so much on the go. I'll jump onto the share screen again, and let's play a little bit of your trailer or your little sampler that we have here. So I have this loaded. Hang on, sorry, that didn't take on that one there. That's the joy of live. All right, so we'll pop onto there, and I'll just go full screen play there. Yeah, it's pretty impactful. So here's a key question. How have
yes.
you been able to finance your films so far? Because I guess that's often the biggest barrier to people who are starting out and wanting to do things. How did you kind of make it happen?
I found that personally my films are risky, and they're not the kind of things which, at least at this very point in time, I hope this changes, but they don't seem to be the most popular way of going about things. So I found that when I spoke to people about what I'm making, they could tell that I really believed in it and I was really passionate about what I was making. And to an aspiring filmmaker, a $1,000 check means the world to them. So it started off with that sort of, like, from a person of fairly well-to-do finances, giving away that much it wasn't nothing, but it wasn't a lot, and that was what got me started with. It's a very small amount, but I can make something really big with it. These days, I have a proven record of I make films on time, with a I haven't blown a budget yet. I'd like to have the chance to blow a budget, but I haven't yet done that. And there's now a certain type of project that I make outside of Hunting for Shadows. So everything else I've made as a collective, people are seeing what my style is. And that's why I'm glad there was no money in Hunting for Shadows, because it was very outside of what I do. But everything else, there's a rawness to it, a grittiness to it, a lot of thought and heart goes into it. Some really big questions are asked, and they're not difficult films to watch, but they do get one to think. They get one to feel a fair bit, and there's a lot of heart and honesty there, which I think, when it comes to someone saying, I have this fund burning a hole in my pocket, I want to give it away to some filmmaker somewhere, it's a lot more enticing for them to see somebody who is challenging the audience and still keeps an authenticity in what they're making there, because that should come full circle in the end there. And so far, all my work has been quite successful in that it's built upon something which isn't meant to pander to the mainstream audience. It's something which is a big question I've asked myself of my quarter life crisis, or of my speech impediment, which some have called a disability. I never saw it that way myself, but that's perspectives. And I ran with this obstacle and found that the audience can relate to what I'm saying, and we build that rapport up. And I've not watered down any of the content to suit the mainstream audience. I'll just let people deal with what they deal with. And over the years, people have seen my work and they've come to me with very similar tastes, thoughts on the world, and values, and we've been able to build up from there. I just think how things are currently, I don't think I have much chance of getting funding from the government bodies, because I'm a fairly well-to-do, educated, white cis male, and there's a lot more in place for people who are anything but that, and that's a really good time to be alive. Which is, to me, I'm not being told I can't do what I'm doing. It just means that the world right now is opening their eyes up to more than just me. So I can go off and do my projects and get funded privately, and allow those funds to remain open for the disabled lesbians of color.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, there's definitely. I think there's a lot of good. It's not an easy thing to sort of tackle when it comes to looking at diversity and things like that. But I spent years working in recruitment, and I kind of got out of it just as the kind of diversity and inclusion bandwagon was really heightening up. And I'm quite glad in some ways, because I love people of all colors, genders, sexualities, whatever. And I have a philosophy basically of don't judge me, I won't judge you, and as long as people are kind. And for me, the main thing is if they're down to earth, really. That's probably the country sort of side coming through, but I like just genuine people, down to earth people. I hate pretentiousness, and that's part of why I left Sydney. Really, well, mostly my wife lured me to Brisbane, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, like I don't think it's I don't think it's a great situation if you have to hire somebody based on ultimately then like what their ethnicity is, just because you want to tick that box of inclusion, and somebody else who maybe was just as well suited misses out.
You mean the current thing about the Oscars?
No, not about the Oscars. I actually don't even know. Fill me in. Like I don't know what's happening there.
It was just announced that to qualify for Best Picture in 2024, that I hope I did this right, that to qualify, the film has to include actors or people of an underrepresented group or minority. And I just saw these comments explode with, would something like Gone with the Wind in 1939 qualify today? Probably not. But there was representation, but it wasn't necessarily good representation. And then the film that started it all for me, Titanic, in 1998, when that won so many Oscars, it was about privileged white people on a boat. So it probably wouldn't win Best Picture if you give it that sort of caveat. But that's all politics, and as a filmmaker, I personally have found that I stir up enough people with my provocativeness as opposed to talking about politics. But I think there's a certain good intention there, where they're trying to open it up to creatives who aren't old, well-to-do white men, and that's great. Open it up to people, but I think having it either shoehorned in, as you said, or having it mandatory, or you can't make something unless XYZ, is going too far because I will always be a cis male white guy. I can't
Hmm.
be anything
Hmm.
other than that. Is that to say that my career matters less, that my work matters less? No. And I think I always try to say that Best Picture should be based on the quality of the picture.
Yes, 100%.
So
Yeah.
um, I say the majority of people are kind of grappling with the intention of opening it up to the underrepresented creatives out there, which is a huge positive. But then those who don't fit into it, like myself, have this moment of, oh, well, this isn't a personal attack against me in any way. It just doesn't include me in this, and that's a certain mentality which I think a lot of people are struggling with now.
Mm.
And
It's kind of almost doing the same thing in reverse. It's kind of almost like engineering a scenario
mm,
where certain people are now becoming semi ostracized from a situation.
in a funny way, I'm not new to being ostracized or being standing out because I've always been my own thinker, and I've never in my life thought of myself as being popular.
Mm.
So that's not a big slap in the face for me, but it's actually putting me on the same level of a lot of my contemporaries now because I see so many people struggling to get stuff made, what with the swell of social justice, that I can kind of relate. And when I'm being told what I have to do, so I need to make a film which is from a woman's point of view and she's of color or she's disabled or whatever, I'm afraid I actually don't want to touch that because that isn't my story to tell.
Mm.
I can probably interview and research until I'm blue in the face, but that's not what I can actually bring to the table. That's that.
Yeah.
I'd rather she do that,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I can do my thing. But as long as both projects are seen as both being worthy of merit, that's I think keeping just the playing field kind of fair in the long run of our lives and of our careers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've heard the adage that, you should tell the story that like, and tap into, it doesn't have to be verbatim, but tap into your life's experiences. And that's something that I certainly want to do if I do get, a shot further down the line. I guess right now I'm really driven to launch Flicks for Good, and that's my kind of social justice piece to set up a video streaming service that, can raise money and awareness for different people and causes around the world and give filmmakers a fair platform to screen their films where they're not getting ripped off, and hopefully raise money to give to filmmakers to actually get their films made. So that's the ultimate goal. That's kind of really taken hold of me in this last 3 months. It was sort of came about because of the COVID situation, and I was just nothing was happening. And I was like, right, okay, what's going on? There's all these problems in the world. I was like, okay, well, businesses are about solving problems. Like, what could I possibly do? And that was what I came up with. So, look, we're just coming down into, I guess, the last couple of minutes here now. So, where can people find your material? Like, how can we view the films?
Good lord. I do know that this is a situation which I am actually personally facing right now. All my films are available on DVD, and I think some of them are streamable, depending on on where they're distributed around the
Yeah,
world. But I don't control that, so that's out there. Search and you shall find. But I'm at a point where I don't necessarily have to keep all my cards close to my chest anymore. I can
yeah,
start to think, could I put this stuff onto a platform to stream and view without asking for a monetary gain? And I'm like,
yeah.
well, I do want to do that because what good are my films to me if they're sitting behind a paywall all the time?
Yes, yeah,
Um, there was a time when I needed that to make a revenue and to get stuff funded. I have thankfully reached a success for myself where I don't have to rely on that so much now.
yeah,
But just keep an eye out.
yeah.
I find my stuff is often Facebookable with the pages for them, and just keep linking back to the IMDb, which you didn't get to see, for stuff that's being made currently.
Great. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. I'll definitely do that. And everybody else can go. And do you go by Davo Hardy on IMDb or David Hardy?
I am Davo across the board. It is my
That's good.
It is my official name.
Yeah.
It will be on all my documentation, and I have two issues with it. One is I'm often being spoken as Damo, as you may know, and
yes.
I often get I often get Dave O'Hardy, and I might be of Irish descent, but I don't have O'Hardy in my name. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's a great Aussie name as well, Davo. You know, I find it quite entertaining and a lot of the people who actually, a lot of Blake's making some comments today. Blake, he's actually quite keen on. Might just pull this up. Dave, I really enjoy this interview, man. You're a super cool guy. Super excited to check out your work. Yeah, he's a nice guy, Chef Blake. I've gotten to know him. Yeah, he's talking about PC gone mad. It is PC gone mad. Yeah, but I like kind of sharing with some of the people overseas just the way that we kind of shorten down names. It's a very Australian thing to do. Nobody likes to use full words in Australia. It's been great to meet you. Please, stay in touch. Don't be a stranger. I'm really keen to, track the rest of your story. And thank you for being so open and honest with us and letting us sort of get a glimpse into what life has been like for you so far. And I wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you for having me, Brad. And it's been great to share it with the audience today. And there's much more to come. I can guarantee you that. Yeah,
awesome. And we'll redistribute this. I'll send some links soon. And most people typically watch it on replay because understandably it's sometimes just the timing doesn't work out. So, and then it'll be out there for potentially forever, which is a funny thought. But anyway, so who knows? Someone might be watching this in 50 years' time. And they can just slap on their virtual headset and probably find it all just right there. Just think about it hard enough and the PC will
pick it up.
All right. Thanks, mate. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Cheers, mate. Bye. Great stuff. Very good. Okay. Thanks for everybody. Blake and Ashley, I know, was here earlier. So we'll crack on now and have a good weekend, night, morning, wherever you are. And we'll talk again soon.